Everyone remembers Kurt Cobain as the voice of Nirvana, the screaming guitars, the torn sweaters, the sound that defined the early 90s. But if you read his journals, listen carefully to his interviews, and look at the strange philosophy hidden between his lyrics, you start to realize something unsettling. Kurt Cobain wasn't just writing songs. He was trying to explain what it feels like to be human in a world that feels fundamentally wrong. And some of his most interesting ideas were hidden in places almost nobody talks about. If there's one idea that runs through Cobain's thinking, it's radical empathy. In 1993, Cobain wrote something in his journals that really gets quoted. He said, "I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I am not." Most people interpret that as rebellion, but for Kurt, it meant something deeper. He believed society rewards dishonesty, politeness, popularity, fitting in. To him, these were all small lies people told every day just to survive socially. Cobain believed authenticity was painful, but necessary. This idea shows up everywhere in his writing, even in places fans overlook. In one notebook entry, he writes about how people at shows suddenly treated him differently after Nevermind exploded in 1991. He said fame didn't change him. It changed how honest people were around him. Cobain also had a strange ability psychologists sometimes call outsider consciousness. He often described feeling like he was watching the world rather than participating in it. In a 1992 interview with Rolling Stone, Cobain said something fascinating. "I feel like I'm observing everything from the outside, not metaphorically, literally." He described childhood as feeling like an alien dropped into a social system he didn't understand. This idea appears in one of the earliest Nirvana songs from the Bleach era, not in the lyrics, but in the liner notes. Cobain wrote sarcastic fake band biographies mocking rock star mythology. It was his way of saying, the whole system is absurd. Even when he became famous, he still felt like he was standing outside the machine. By 1992, Cobain had become one of the most famous musicians on the planet. But he saw fame almost like a philosophical experiment. He once told journalists, "If my life is going to be ridiculous, I might as well document it." Cobain actually kept detailed journals, not just for songwriting, but for anthropological observation. He studied his own fame. One obscure entry describes watching people stare at him in airports. He wrote, "They're not looking at me, they're looking at the idea of me." That distinction bothered him deeply, because to Cobain, celebrity meant becoming a symbol instead of a person, and he hated symbols. Cobain's philosophy wasn't nihilistic like many people assume. It was actually deeply moral. Long before it was common in rock culture, Cobain was openly vocal about feminism and LGBTQ acceptance. At shows in the early 90s, he would sometimes say, "If you're sexist, racist, homophobic, don't come to our shows." This wasn't just political posturing. Cobain believed cruelty came from insecurity and fear. He wrote in one journal entry that bullies were people who were terrified of feeling weak, which leads to one of his most revealing lines ever written. From the song All Apologies, "Everyone is gay." At the time, this confused people, but Cobain later clarified the line. He meant human identity is fluid, complicated, and impossible to box in. Kurt Cobain also believed something deeply unusual about art. He thought perfection was dishonest. You can hear this philosophy in the raw sound of In Utero. He deliberately pushed the production to sound rough and uncomfortable. The producer, Steve Albini, later explained that Cobain wanted the album to feel like a human document, not a polished product. Because to Cobain, flaws were proof that something was real. He once wrote in his journals, "I like mistakes because they remind me someone made this." If you step back and look at everything Cobain wrote, said, and created, a strange philosophy emerges. He believed three things. Authenticity matters more than approval. Empathy is the only real moral rule. And imperfection is what makes things human. Which is ironic, Because the world tried to turn Kurt Cobain into a perfect symbol. The voice of a generation, the face of rebellion, the icon of grunge. But Cobain didn't want to be a symbol. He just wanted people to be honest. Near the end of his journals, Cobain wrote something small but revealing. Just 4 words. I miss the comfort. Most people would recognize that line from Frances Farmer, Will Have Her Revenge on Seattle. But in the journal, it isn't a lyric. It's just a thought. And maybe that's the closest thing we have to Kurt Cobain's real philosophy. Not fame, not rebellion. Just a human being trying to understand why the world feels so strange.